Welcome back to JB Reviews. I have my 2024 Chevy Silverado with the 6.6 L8T, and I have the 2023 Ram 3500 with the 6.4 liter HEMI. This is a really important video, and you don't want to miss the next one I do because we're going to do MPG and acceleration. So be sure to lock into the channel, and we're going to talk about which is the best option for you. Let's get into it. Special shout out to Larry H. Miller for allowing me to do the video on their Ram 3500. This truck is available. I don't know how long it'll be available because I don't know when I'm going to be posting these videos, but they have a gas HD here, which is a great alternative to the diesel. Now let's talk about the front ends really quickly. So one thing I like about the Ram is when you get the Night Edition, they do give you this more aggressive hood. This is the Sport Performance hood that they unveiled for 2023, and it's pretty menacing. It's not really functional, but it does have heat extractor, so the front is blocked off right here. And overall, the Night Edition is my favorite because you can get different colors for the Night Edition. On the Chevy side of the house, they too have a fixed hood scoop if you get the gas engine. However, they do not have heat extractors right here. Now, as far as the Night Edition goes, you can only get it in black. And if you go down to an LTZ, you can get different colors in the Sport Appearance package. But for the most part, I got to address something real quickly. I know this is a high country, I know it's a Laramie, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, that's an unfair comparison, you're becoming a Chevy fanboy. I can hear everything in the comment section now, but let me just clear this up really quickly. If you want a gas engine and the highest trim level for Ram, this is the highest trim level. For Chevy, you can still get it in high country. And when you see the pricing, well, you understand why I did this test. Now let's talk about headlights really quickly. As far as LEDs go, this is now an option for a Laramie. And you get incandescent turn signals whether you get them or not. So these are the LED, and they do black it out for the Night Edition package. LED fog lights. On this side of the house, this does have LED turn signals, high and low beams, and fog lights. And you can get these on an LT all the way up to this high country. So one thing I'll say is this: I do like Ram's parking sensors. Do you notice how they hide them? Like, you almost have to look for them. And there's two on the fog light bezel there, and there's two on that center grille, and the same thing goes on that side. On Chevy, they're all like popped on the front, and I just think it takes away from the design and it doesn't look good. So they should do something similar where they kind of clean up the front end with that. And you can get a blackout with this truck. Now, I do believe that they still give you chrome tow hooks, however, but Ram does give you the black ones on this setup here. As far as the front cameras go, it is an option on the Ram. However, for the Chevy, I believe this does come standard. And they also give you a sprayer for it too. So here's the moment you guys are probably waiting for in this video. Now, let's start off with the Chevy. So 6.6 liter gas V8. This was introduced back in 2020, and does anyone know what the block is made of? Well, if you don't, I can tell you. It's obviously going to be cast iron, which is no surprise. Now, the LT1 was the engine that I think this one was kind of designed around. So that engine had 11.5 to 1 compression. They did reduce the compression for this setup to 10.8 to 1. That way you can use 87 octane. Now, I do kind of wish that they allow this engine to be able to run at higher compression as an option. That way you can get a little bit more power out of it. Now, this does have good torque, so it's going to have 464 pound-feet of torque, which bests the Ram. Ram has 429 pound-feet. And this does have a pretty stout build too. So one thing that's notable is that it does have 6-bolt nodular main bearing caps. And obviously most people know this, 10-speed Allison was introduced for 2024. And that's a good thing because this engine needed a couple more gears, especially up top if you're going to be climbing grades. Now, as far as the Ram goes, let's talk about the 6.4 HEMI. This also has a cast iron block as well. Now, as far as compression goes, this is 10.9 to 1 compression, and this is going to have 410 horsepower, which bests the Chevy, which has 401. 8-speed transmission. Now, the 8HP 75 is a ZF transmission, and this is actually pretty reliable. I've had three or four of these transmissions in the past, and I've never had any problems with it, so I do recommend this setup here. Now let's walk out back really quickly. Here's where Ram has the advantage. This truck actually has the option. This has a 410 rear. It comes standard with a 373. And as I had said earlier, Chevy has a 373 standard, but that's the only one that you can get on this setup here. So my opinion is, I like the lower gearing, especially with towing. If you live in higher elevations like I do right now in Utah, these engines are going to lose horsepower the higher you go up elevation. So having that 410 is a huge viable option. I mean, of course you're going to get worse fuel economy, but if you do want to buy a gas truck and tow with it, that might make more sense versus having this a standard 373. Now let's talk about the mirrors really quickly. I do not like Chevy's mirrors. I'm going to say it in this video. I was going to do a separate video for it, but it's okay. And here's what I don't like about them. Number one, this light is in the wrong place. When you first buy a Chevy, you have to remind yourself about this, because every time you look in the mirrors, you're gonna see this and you're gonna think it's a car in your blind spot, especially if you're getting over. They need to move this off to the side, or they just need to redesign these mirrors to make these lights fit better. Like, this was never a good design in my personal opinion. And look how Ram did it. You see how Ram did it? They gave you a smaller mirror, but they added the light down the side here, which again doesn't affect your visibility out of the mirrors. Now here's where Ram wins too. You can also control the convex. I still, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually need to move this up just a little bit on my truck. Now the reason why that sucks is when you're driving down the road you can't adjust it, but on Rams you can. And they just give you a really nice setup here for controlling the mirrors. The last thing that they win on the mirrors is this. You can actually adjust the mirrors precisely where you want them at on both sides. On GM's is either out or in. That's it. So I do like that you can really fine tune them, because sometimes you may not need the mirrors all the way out, and the mirrors do stick out pretty wide when they are in tow mode. So all in all, the mirrors both have camera views on them. So let's jump inside really quickly so I can show that to you. So Chevy takes the win for the cameras, 100%. You click there, you can pretty much see, here's your bird's eye view, here's the backup. Actually, that's the front, I'm sorry, that's the frontal view. This is the backup. And if you want, you could turn off the bird's eye view. Really easy to do that. And if you want to check out the bed, there it is. You can also zoom in, check on your cargo. Another thing is, you can't see it here, but you have cameras for the inside of your trailer, on the back of your trailer, that can be set up. The reason why I like this better is because everything is right here. Let's check out Ram's. With Ram's cameras, you have to go to the vehicle, and actually it's already there. So you have vehicle, you have trailer, and then you have the aux. So what I like about Chevy's is it's all lined up down below versus this. This is just a little bit more cumbersome, and I feel like you do have it lined up right here, but then if you want more cams, you have to go down here. It's just not as like user friendly personally. So I don't normally use the cameras for the Ram, but you still have the same camera views as you just saw. Now I will say, I just noticed, I don't think that my GM has this. I don't think it has that camera view. So that might be an advantage for the Ram, but I just think these are just a little bit more cumbersome personally. And I think that GMs are just a little bit more easier to use. As far as the interior goes, I'm not gonna say that there's a clear winner, but here are the advantages for both trucks. Number one, if GM does not offer this next year, I'm gonna choke them. Ford just offered this, they call it measurement, but Ram has been doing this the longest. This is called gauge summary. So you can see all the things you need to see when you're going down the road, especially if you're towing. Another thing I like about the Ram is this. This storage is phenomenal. No one can touch this in this segment. And I don't know why they don't try to make it better. Like, especially for GM, they should have really redid their center console, because I think Ram just has killed them all with this. But as far as the overall interior design goes, this is a nice interior. It looks great. You only have this color and you have like a saddle color, but if you get Night Edition, you only get black. And that's not a bad thing, because this interior is super, super nice. Now, here are the advantages for the Chevy. You do have a digital gauge cluster standard from LT up to the high country. You have to go to a limited Longhorn or a limited to get it there. Heads-up display. I do like the horizontal screen versus the vertical one in the Ram, which is optional. This comes standard from LT all the way up. Also, you get hard buttons for your ventilated seats and your heated seats. I like the knobs. When you get the 12-inch display, you get buttons. I just prefer that better. It's just easier to use and like figure out. And I think this blue interior, like, I was kind of nervous about it. I absolutely love it. And all in all, I just think you get a lot more stuff for the money compared to the Ram. Now, like I said earlier, the center console is a loss for GM. Like, this is okay. Ram just has more storage. This is open storage. I prefer there to be, you know, covers for all this stuff. It just looks nicer, especially when you have a lot of junk. Now, by the way, this is not mine. This is my wife. She left it in here. I just want to make that clear. And there's something else I wanted to say. Telescoping steering wheel versus Ram's power pedals. So I think I would prefer the telescoping steering wheel, because I never adjusted the pedals. I always just pushed them as far away as I could, and that was it. But this gives you more like ways to get comfortable in the truck. And this front part of the cab is so much bigger, guys. I have to be completely honest. This is so much nicer than Ram. Even with the mega cab, the front part of it doesn't have as much headroom. And I have long legs. You see how much I'm stretched out up front here? Like, in the Ram, you kind of notice how tight it is where the door is versus the center console here is. Let me just show that to you really quickly. I want you guys to hear this. Seats all the way back. Do you see how much tighter it is up here? And as I've mentioned, I'm gonna push the pedals all the way out, because that's what I always do on all my trucks when I get Rams. Oh yeah, so much better. So that's a little bit better, but you can tell that it's noticeably tighter right here too. And yeah, the head space is just a lot lacking. But here's where Ram wins out back. Not only do you have storage for days, like there's storage for days back here. Like, look at this. This is insanity. And you have a little cubby right here. But you also can recline the rear seats. You can also have a flat floor surface, and you can literally sleep back here in the Rams. You cannot do this in Chevys. Chevy is lacking back here. I know a lot of people make fun of Ram's old cabs, but the mega cab is #1. If you want to sleep back here, well, you got to sleep on the seat right here. That's it. And then the storage, I mean, granted, I do like this, but down below here, there's just not enough storage in this truck. And I would say that they're probably about the same for the amount of leg room out back. I mean, the Ram might be just a hair bigger, but it's minuscule. But you have more USBs and a power plug on this side, outboard heated seats, cup holders there. On my Chevy, cup holders, 2 USBs, but they do not give you that 120 volt power plug. That's the only thing that sucks about this truck. I do like to have 2, and you don't have that. Here's what Ram's gonna really need to do for the 2024-2025 model year. Tire selection. If you get a 18-inch wheel from GM, they give you a Michelin tire. If you get the 20s, they give you this Goodyear Wrangler, and this is the Trail Runners. These tires are quiet, comfortable, and they have great capacity and stability on the road, and they wear pretty well too. They're also a 34-inch tire compared to the Firestone Transforces, which I do not like these tires. And yeah, I think these are either 32 or 33-inch tire, and 3,640 pounds of capacity versus, what is that? 3,750 pounds of capacity. Now, independent front suspension on the Chevy, solid front axle on the Ram. Listen, if you're buying a gas truck, that's not gonna really matter. If you're buying a dually, that's where that really matters at. But if I had to choose, if GM made it an option, I'd get the solid front axle every time. But that's just my opinion. I do like the steps on the side of the bed, but where GM really takes the win back here is bed size. This is basically a 6-foot 10-inch bed versus a 6-foot 4-inch bed. You can also tell that the bed height is a little bit taller on the Chevy versus the Ram. And where GM also is pretty cool is they did slide the fifth wheel prep package slightly behind the axle. That way you get a little bit more clearance if you're towing a fifth wheel or gooseneck trailer. Last but not least, let's talk about towing numbers. As far as my truck goes, they give you the numbers on the door right here. So axle on my truck is 7,250. 4,800 pounds is the front gross axle weight rating, and it does have 11,550 GVWR, 3,800 pound payload capacity, 16,000 pound conventional towing, 18,300 pound gooseneck and fifth wheel trailer tow. With the Ram, they do fall short with the axle rating out back at 7,000 pounds. 11.4 is the GVWR. Even though that is lower by, was that 150 pounds, it doesn't really matter because Ram could do 11,550 if they wanted to. However, look at the payload. This truck does have more payload than my truck does, so 3,968 pounds. Which means the Chevy weighs 300, I don't know if you guys can see that, 318 pounds more than the Ram. And that's because this is a slightly bigger truck from the 2019 model year. And the framing on this truck is a lot more robust compared to the previous trucks. But nonetheless, they're both great trucks. But if I really had to choose a gas configuration, biasness aside, I would probably get the Chevy. And it's only because of the 10-speed stamp of approved Allison, the bigger bed. I do like the options a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to option this truck. And the Chevy's cheaper. I will show you guys the window stickers for both these trucks at the end of this video. That way you can see them. But all in all, I think that the Ram has a lot of work to do for 2024. GM just refreshed the Chevy, and that's why it's going to be slightly better. Them adding the 10-speed was probably the biggest game changer in the market. But not so fast. We still have to do the 0 to 60 and MPG run. In the next video, we're going to do that. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I've already done some testing on my Chevy, and let's just say, this might be closer than you think. See you guys in the next video. I almost forgot to show you guys this. If you want to put the tailgate down, you can do that from the key on the Ram, but you cannot put it back up. With the Chevy, it's actually power down and power back up.